Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into this edition of the Duval Dive here. Of course, you are watching us, theoretically speaking, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern here on Wednesday night. I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network, and you are listening to this while I'm also covering the Orlando Magic for the same Fans First Sports Network. But nonetheless, Travis and I got together and said we should do our own mock draft for y'all. And listen, out there, I'm going to shout out to my guy, Locked On Jaguars, Tony Wiggins, T-Wiggs. We aren't doing this to copy you. We planned to do this last week, and then here you go coming out there, hitting it out the park with your own mock draft. So we ain't copying you. You just do a daily show when you got in ahead of us, but we do respect what you did. That being said, it's Draft Mania. Everybody's talking about what's going on and what the Jags should do at number 5. Now, a couple things to be stated here before we get into this mock draft. We will not be doing any trades. And I know people have thrown stones at me out there on the Twitters and all of that, with me apparently smashing the trade button on a regular basis. You won't have to worry about that here. We are foregoing trades. The one thing Travis and I were going to do that's the same as we'll start with the same opening pick before us, but rather than talking proverbs, let's bring in my personal champion, Big Cat Country Zone, Travis D. Holmes. What's going on, my man? What's going on, champion?
I'm ready to fight, sir. I'm ready to fight. Let's get this thing on. This mock draft of Palooza.
Apparently so. You got so angry at my first mock draft, you done broke your hand slamming the table. What's going on?
Hey, man, this happens when you get old and you want to play flag football every weekend with these young high schoolers, man. They show you that you don't got the bones. You didn't drink enough milk as a young man to keep these things going. That's what that is.
I mean, you're trying to say at our age you should be drinking a bit more Ensure. Is that it? Anyway. So anyways, just to go over it one more time, for clarity, we are using Pro Football Network site. For anybody who's wondering what site we're using to do our mock draft simulation on. We're going to try to do it if we have enough time, where both Travis and I each do one. We are going to try to open it to where we have the first pick the same, and then from there it could go in any direction. And as we go, Travis will clap, laugh, or throw things at me as we go. And then if we can get it done here quick enough, Travis will take a turn, and then you can argue over who the better GM is. That's not James Gladstone. So, without further ado, man, let's go ahead and rock and roll and get into it as we open my edition of the 2025 NFL Draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, at this juncture, we have already broken – well, we haven't. The Cleveland Browns have already broken the heart of all the Travis Hunters out there. He's off the board. So for those listening on the pod, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, and Abdul Carter, all four already off the board. No surprises there. I know there's the contingent out there amongst the Duval about that you get Tet McMillan here. I am not one of them. I'm going to go defensive tackle Mason Graham for the first overall pick, and I expect Travis will do the same. So as we rock and roll here, the draft begins. Keep in mind the needs we're talking about: offensive guard, offensive center, not that there's a defensive center per se, corners, DBs, right? As well as maybe you can get another receiver in here, maybe tight ends, all that sort of stuff here. And we're coming up pretty shortly here on pick 36. Xavier Watts on the first round. That makes me want to throw things.
Just left.
That makes me sad too. See, by the way, the reason why we're mentioning that is some of us are going to have a more difficult time than the other, and I already think that that's me. So we'll leave it at that, because I have gotten completely jacked up on stuff here for my second pick. According to what's here on the site, Colston Loveland is the best player available, and the rest are other defensive tackles. I'm not trying to pick a D tackle again, whether it's a good value here or not.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to go ahead and get Notre Dame's Benjamin Morrison with my second pick, just because I think it's the best combination of best player available and meeting of a need. I did not want to get a tight end second overall. Forget about the stones thrown at me. I just don't think it's that big a need to prioritize. a pick at that juncture. And I've also gotten two of the needs out of the way with defensive tackle and corner. I don't know. Would you?
So far we are actually in agreement on both your top two picks. I would have picked exactly the same way.
Yeah, I got. You mentioned Zabel being gone. That's a problem. Rhodes was a safety I was going to take a shot at. He's gone. We'll leave that at that. Coming down to pick 88 here in the third round. There's a whole bunch of defensive tackles still on the board. Apparently, everybody is just outright pissed that Mason Graham is off the board. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of defensive tackles still on the board. I don't need one anymore. I could go a couple directions. I'm thinking of Emory Jones, but I'm going to go Darian Porter, cornerback, Iowa State here, in particular. And I know Travis is going to argue with that I need to fill more needs at the tackle spot. But let's be honest, the tackles are accounted for. And this is the round, in case anybody's wondering, when I'm going to try to target that guard and center spot. I didn't think we were going to get somebody worth the value in the first two rounds. And so I'm gambling that everything falls to make that happen.
That was my thought. I was thinking you would have gone Jonas Sabonalia and had him at guard, and that was a solid pick. Again, like those flexible guys, but I understood the pick. I mean, you want to make sure you get that cornerback room, the outside corner room, kind of strong. We got questions there, and you don't want to have questions there anytime moving forward.
Right, and if you're going to address corner like I'm doing, you can't do it with just one player. I think that's safe to bet here. Now, unfortunately, the guard prospects I would have liked are gone. You mentioned that. However, addressing the upcoming need in the room with Andre Cisco, Lathan Ransom's here of Ohio State. I could go tight end here if I wanted to take a shot at Mason Taylor. I don't know if I'm there. Xavier Restrepo for Miami, wide receiver there too. If I wanted another receiver, I'm gonna float on receivers because there's so many talented ones. I think I can get one later. Probably a Big 12 receiver too, because that conference is so underappreciated. And I think I talked myself into it, Travis. I'm gonna go Lathan Ransom safety with the third pick overall here. Again, what I'm looking for is the best mix of a player available with team need. The argument could be made there for Taylor. I'm just not feeling a tight end this high. I think getting a good defensive back core is a higher priority than tight end.
Oh, and I was with you with Ransom, but I was neck and neck with Josiah Stewart, and I probably would have leaned Stewart just because you want to pair that Michigan edge with that Michigan D tackle. And, this guy that came from the Rams had some success doing this. I don't know.
That's a wonderful thought. Yeah. I can't knock that at all. So what's interesting here is in the fourth round at the 107th pick, Xavier Restrepo is still on the board.
Now it feels like you might have to do it.
And that's the conversation to be had, right? Receivers still identified as a need. I'm looking through my other picks here. Defense heavy, these first four picks. I would have liked a guard here. I'm not seeing one that's right for this value. So I'm with you. I'm going Xavier Restrepo, Miami at this point. I find it interesting that Scatabo is still on the board. But the way running backs are disrespected nowadays is a thing. But yeah, I pulled in Restrepo, wide receiver from Miami. Nice. So we're going through the fourth round pick.
Not a bad one, sir. It's not. Yeah. It's not a bad pick at all. It is what it is. But unless you were talking about moving one of those tackles that were available over to guard, that's pretty much what you're going to have to go with Xavier at that point.
Yeah, and without having that next level knowledge on some of these guys, I wasn't really sure that's what we wanted to do.
I got you.
The guards that are still on the board, I can probably float it one more to get a guard or a center in the fifth round rather than at the fourth. That's the option here. And as I'm going into the fourth round, oh man, it's hard for me to pass on Savion Williams here. I'm not going to pick him officially yet. I'm going to see what other options I actually have. But like I said, I feel like I can float guard one more round and get away with it.
All right. Yeah, you're risking it.
No, I'm not. You know what? I talked myself out of it. I'm remembering I'm picking it 126. And according to the valuation here of Jackson Slater from Sacramento State, yeah, I've already been burned 3 times at the guard position. Let's get Jackson Slater here from Sacramento State as the guard for my 4th round pick. As soon as my mouse decides to behave. You gotta love shows like this, man, where technology decides to mess with you at the end of the day here. Okay, so we have Jackson Slater selected from Sacramento State there.
I like Slater's. I like Slater's game, bro. I do. I also like the center Luke Condra's game, and he was also available at that same time. That's a split.
Well, no, we're moving on to 141. He's still available in round 5, is what we're seeing. And as you point that out, I think I'm going to go back-to-back guard here. Satisfy the need, feed the need at guard, so to speak. And, yeah, we're going to get Condra 5th round there, pick 141, I think it was.
Very nice.
Yeah, this is going well. I've recovered, I think, attacking needs, right? Let's kind of review my picks here. At Mason Graham, Ben Morrison at corner, 2 corners back-to-back. Safety with Ransom at the 4th pick, 5th. I shouldn't say 4th and pick. Let me do it this way. Yeah, with 107th overall, I got Restrepo. That's good, in my opinion. And then Slater and Condra with the 126 and 142 picks. I can't front on any of that. So coming up on the 182, this is where things get interesting because I've addressed everything except for tight end. And again, to me, they're listing tight end as a need. I don't think it's a priority. I can agree. You could even address that in UDFA, in my opinion. What's fascinating here is what's available at center again. Do I want more than one center? I don't think so. But then our other guards, our other O linemen can play guard. Do we want 3 offensive linemen? I don't think that's a bad thing. We already have 3 DBs. I don't think we want to go that direction.
At this point, it feels like it's just BPA and just bringing the guys in and let them compete.
I can't
linebacker options.
I'm
linebackers to play special teams.
Yeah, I was thinking about a linebacker as a possibility too. But you can make the argument that the best players available are Brashard Smith out of SMU at running back, which I'm not doing that. I feel like we could get a better running back, or at least one I'm familiar with, able to fit in the system at that spot.
I have a feeling I know who you're thinking about. Mr. Black and Gold Baronet.
And I know you'll think he'll be off the board here, but I'm not convinced of that. And in truth, we joke it doesn't have to be RJ Harvey, but there's a lot of Big 12 backs. Somebody's going to fall out of these first rounds, I think, and become accessible. I am already at round 6, so this would not be a bad place to get a running back. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and snag Jake Majors here. I think he's close enough in the best player available conversation. And
that's a good one. Yeah.
As much as I talk about Trevor Lawrence needing protection, here I am. I got to achieve it, man. I mean, I would make jokes about
Here you are having a conversation about the skimp on the one position that I would rather go over and above on. Yeah, go and draft your offensive lineman, sir, and stand on that. That's what I'm talking about.
That's my house. That's right.
Stand on them.
So here's where I'm going to go. You mentioned the linebacker position. We have 2 that are about 20 spots rated higher than we are at the 194 spot. Teddy Buchanan of California, of Cal, and Jamon Dumas Johnson of Kentucky. I'm going to pick Jamon Dumas Johnson. I think he's going to fit more with what they're attempting to do there. He's an excellent coverage linebacker, is my understanding. That goes very well alongside of Foyoluakin, Ventrell Miller, and that guy. And who knows if he does well enough in camp, maybe he could do stuff that you're normally relying on Chad Muma for. So, there's that. So I went linebacker there for that pick at 180, whatever it was, 181, I think. Or 182, rather. 182? Okay, yeah. So we're going down. We're waiting on the 221 pick here coming up into the 7th round for our final pick. I have not addressed tight end. I know somebody's going to nitpick that. To be honest, I don't really care. I feel like I've gotten really good value overall with that.
Interesting.
So I have to admit, I've not been particularly fond of how this particular draft go round has treated me, Travis.
Yes,
we joked about it when we joked around when we were testing all this for you guys. The draft I had in that one was awesome. I don't hate this one, but it certainly was a lot harder to get through it. At 221,
so who's this last pick? Yeah, let's get into them. Who's your Mr. Irrelevant for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, Jaguar irrelevant, right? I'm checking tight end. I'm going to go UDFA as I claimed might happen. The highest value ones here that are listed on the Pro Football Network site are Cody Lindenberg of Minnesota. I have a lot of trouble picking a golden gopher in my mind, simply because I think they're going to get blown up from playing on a schedule that was relatively weak. I could go with an offensive tackle in Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. That's an option. I have Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State as well. I can go with as a defensive tackle for a second one if I'm feeling frisky.
Feeling a little nasty. I got you.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to do that. What I could go UCF cornerback BJ Adams at 216 here. I'm not feeling that. I'm not particularly fond of his game fitting in with the Jags system.
Okay.
This is not an easy one for me. What I could even get real frisky, go Tyler Beatty of BYU on the edge.
I'm shocked you're not talking about BJ Adams. Another just getting you another UCF cornerback.
Yeah, but as much as I read the school name and didn't like it earlier, BJ Adams is not a fit to me. I don't think he fits with the Jags. And it's not because he did relatively poor in the combine, although we say this waiting on his pro day for the Big 12 to come out too. Mac McWilliams is also there too for UCF if you want to go there. But again, I think you'll have a chance to look at him as an in-state UDFA. That'll be fine. I am going to go. You know what? Man, this is not. I hate this decision. I'm gonna go. Yeah, what the heck? I'm gonna go offensive tackle Carson Vincent. Thinking that Tony Baselli will take another tackle as a project to round out my draft. This is not a sexy draft, but I think it's one that's solid enough. As we wait for this particular draft to conclude, you'll get my final rundown here shortly. But Travis, did I prove to the world today that I am a horrible scout once again?
I don't know. Let's see the final results, and once we get there, we'll conclude, or maybe we'll let the audience conclude. I think that will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to hear what you have to say. I mean, listen, as much criticism as I got on my if Trevor Lawrence stayed healthy video the other day, I'm sure there'll be plenty of that out there as well. But yeah, so here we go. I managed to, with the 10 picks for the podcast out there at number 5 overall, Mason Graham. No shocks there. I would have liked an opportunity to go with a Will Campbell, but that's not what happened. Benjamin Morrison at corner from Notre Dame. Darian Pointer at quarter from Iowa State. I think that's my favorite pick there at 70, by the way. Lathan Ransom of Ohio State at safety at 88. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver, Miami at 107. Jackson Slater, guard at 126. Luke Kendra immediately after. That's a good pick, too. I think we got lucky there. Offensive guard / center out of Cincinnati. Jake Majors at center, 182 out of Texas. I like that one, too. I don't think we'll see Majors at 182 in real life. Let's be honest.
No.
Jamon Dumas, I can't read the rest of his name, but linebacker out of Kentucky. And then Carson Vincent, offensive tackle, Alabama A&M. Travis, thoughts?
Well, I would have loved to get one of those dominant running backs in this draft. Not to mention, would have felt a little bit better. Again, primarily the running back room, primarily the tight end room. But you can't go wrong when you're investing in the offensive line, and that's always the overall point here.
Yeah.
But let's get this bad boy started looking at my draft.
Yeah. Gentlemen, start your engines. Here we go.
All right. So as Nash already laid out, we are in agreement. There are no trades, and we are starting with my version of this Save the Jaguars mock draft. With Cam Ward, Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter already off the board. So in agreement with Nash with his first pick.
Same players, different teams. It's great.
Yeah, same 4 players went to different teams. It still works for me. I'm going to then also be in agreement with Mr. Nash. Big man's up front. Let's go. Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. That is how we are going to go. I am very prayerful that whether it's Zabel, whether it's Jackson, one of these guards are still going to be on the board.
Yeah,
at that second pick.
I was otherwise opportunity, and Rhodes was off the board at safety, so I got hit twice.
Yes, and Watts. You also had Watts was off the table too, also the safety. So you were kind of limited on options there, and I felt a little bad for you. So, as you
feel bad for you, Cam.
As you now see,
and you have
a few different options available, right? So now I have Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I got Gray Zabel of the offensive guard / center out of North Dakota State. I got Kenneth Graham.
Just get it done.
But I really don't want to take him, if I'm being honest with you. That's not true. I do. Yeah, we're going Gray Zabel. Zabel out of North Dakota State. Some things, hey man, sometimes it's good to be lucky than good, man. It's better to be lucky than good. I don't know what to tell you, but yes, that's where we are going.
Points for being the better GM and having a good draft despite being stuck in that situation.
Jeez, I'm sorry, but you just had the unfortunate consolation prize of Benjamin Morrison. Come on, and for a DB guy, I'm sitting there like, man, no, you got it. That's a great freaking pick. You got a nice cornerback. Come on.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be very mad because I'm not going to have one of the top 3 to 4 cornerbacks in the draft, which you did get. So let's see who we're going to have here. So far we have Mason Graham out of Michigan. We have Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State for showing up the 2 fronts at least.
And in both our drafts, as a quick side note, defensive tackle is not something that goes very quickly after Mason Graham. I think that's interesting.
Well, everybody and their mama always said this was a deep draft at defensive tackle. The problem with it being a deep draft does not mean each of these guys are going to be elite. It just means each of these guys are going to be NFL starters. And that's how you get into a situation where you end up drafting, Chris Jones becomes the 5th, defensive tackle drafted in his draft class at 37th pick, where you have, he's elite, but other guys are taken before him. So it might be all right. If you have a guy who you believe to be elite, you draft him, and the draft board lands where it lands. So
at 70, I know what I would do here. Do you have some options that are interesting?
I do. And I am right now split between Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver out of Iowa State, and Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas. But
that's
unfortunately hard. Right. But receivers a much deeper class in this draft than safety is, because Makuba might be the last true starting safety that's available here. So I got to go there, man.
Yeah, safeties are harder to find. That's a good take. It's real hard looking past Jaden Higgins there, though, man.
I know. I know, but I already have an idea at least. I said I have an idea who I was picking next, but he's just left the draft board in Jack Beck. So
yeah, Beck,
that's gone.
Yeah.
So that's a wrap. So yeah, at this point, but look at me. Look at God.
Lucky so-and-so. This dude's going to pull Jaden Higgins in round 3 at 88th overall. Wow.
Well. Look at God move. So that's what we are doing. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver.
My daughter. That's not fair.
At pick 88. I don't even feel good about this.
I
feel
you
bad
don't.
for
You're
you,
on 3
sir.
rounds and you haven't picked a corner yet. You must be itching in your boots.
I am, but at the end of the day, man, you gotta, the draft is for BPA, free agency is for shoring up these holes. So
And
that's
that's a quick point I want to
unfortunately.
make. Our philosophies both feature BPA, but I think you lean heavier on that, where I try to strike that balance of need and BPA. So
Sure. But most of these positions that I've still drafted are needs. It's just the question of how big the need is.
no, we
Like we're
talked about how
ranking.
lucky you've been. That's a fact.
I'm happy we're in agreement that I was absolutely lucky. But I'm okay with it, bro. It is what it is.
So with 07
So
overall, I see you looking at Zy Alexander. I wouldn't be
mhm.
mad if you went that direction for sure.
Yeah, but I'm still. I got questions because I don't know that I necessarily. I like Zy. Don't get me. I say I like Zy, and I'm still looking because I really want to draft a freaking. I really want to go with one of the running backs right now, and I know I'm being crazy because I know we'll have some other backs available a little bit later, and this is real life. But just for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to draft the guys who are available at the spots where they are currently supposed to be available, not where I think they'll go. Because in my personal opinion, I believe someone like an RJ Harvey is going to go around that 130 to 140 mark. I know we are in disagreement there, but
I think that's a bad example. Yeah, I think there's a chance they look past him because he's a running back and he's at UCF and everybody still thinks they're a villain. That's a separate question. But available right now is Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss. You got Jordan Birch.
You know who I'm going?
Out of Oregon. I thought you might go edge.
That's it. That's it. Let's give me my designated pass rusher. Let me give me my third edge, and we will go there, sir.
Right now, it's a contest between Higgins and that, on which is my favorite pick of yours in this mock so far. You lucky so and so.
Yes, I have been extremely lucky, and
I'm not bitter.
Yeah, we are going to continue this look. Absolutely. So at this point in the draft, hey man, this is all about getting value. This is all about where you can strengthen your team and where you can strengthen your levels of competition. So we already got Grace Zabel, who's able to play both center and guard.
Yes.
You already got a defensive tackle in Mason Graham, who's going to be able to lift that room. But am I comfortable in just one offensive lineman? Do I feel comfortable adding some competition to that offensive tackle spot? Well, you know me, I love competition.
Yeah.
I love competition, and I'm not the person, if I'm James Gladstone, I'm not the person who drafted these guys. So you know what I'm doing? Logan Brown, come on down, offensive tackle out of Kansas. We're going to have a competition, baby. We're going to strengthen this room, hella high water.
And you picked him at about the right place and value there with that spot too, I think. So yeah.
I'm a fan of how this draft has gone, obviously, because I've been lucky on multiple picks. Was guys slipping and me gaining value there.
Rub it in.
I can't pretend that is not what's happening right now. But I think we are now approaching a time. But maybe I want to start thinking about a backup quarterback. Maybe I want to start thinking about a running back. Maybe I want to start thinking about a tight end if there's anyone in the area that I agree has those intangibles.
That's a good idea.
Something like that. Like if you're going to look for need, you look for need in the mid rounds to late rounds. You don't look for need at the top unless it's like you look for the best player available and you figure the rest out. Right. So that's kind of where I'm leaning so far, at least where this draft is landing me. We have offensive line depth, I believe, at this point, especially with the new signing of Fred Jackson from the Eagles. Was just signed to a 1-year deal reportedly for Adam Schefter earlier today. So, hey, we have offensive line depth with, I believe, that's 6 new offensive linemen being brought in now with this draft. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. Safety, we still don't have the corner, the corner picks that I would have loved because that just didn't pop up. It didn't happen. The draft didn't fall that way. Jarian Jones get ready to learn some outside cornerback. That is kind of where we are. But yeah, so I think I'm going to have to go with give me depth or give me help. We're going to go with Jake Brenningstool out of the tight end out of Clemson.
Yeah, I thought you were going to do that. Yeah. So there's a need pick right there for one for sure. I
thought about Tyler Shiloh. I thought about Tyler Shaw because I thought about a backup quarterback, and then he's like a very high variance player. People have basically really high and really low opinions of him, and there's no in between. But
well, he's an ACC quarterback, so immediately I'm not picking him.
Well, I figure like if Liam Cohen can make Baker Mayfield look dope, and he can make Will Levis look dope in college, he can probably do some work with Tyler. That's all.
And that's a bit of a misnomer. The reason why Will Levis looked great at Kentucky is because that running back behind him was awesome. Let's be clear. They had a great running game there too.
True. I mean, we're not in disagreement there. Like, again, that's what I hope they believe the Jaguars will be. Is a team that is able to run the ball with multiple running backs and be a little bit variable there. But now we're getting to a point in the draft. We're in the 6th round, pick 182. RJ Harvey has been taken in the end of the 5th round, exactly how I thought it should have. And I should have just picked him when I said earlier, where I thought he would have gone and not where this thing had him going. Right. That's my fault. So you can just look at this draft like RJ Harvey was picked in the 5th round. We're going to talk about this. But yeah, so we are now at a point where it's just, hey, who's available? Who's the best people available? I'm probably going to end up going Jamon DeMars Johnson out of Kentucky just because I think.
Fascinating. I thought you were going to get the Tennessee kid at the running back spot there.
I thought about it too, but again, I'm looking at need, but I'm also looking at how good the guy, he's actually a good coverage a good coverage linebacker, and I think that's solid. And I know SEC, so I'm like, that's probably where I'm going to lean, and we'll just figure out what we're going to do with Chad Muma, who's entering, the final years of his contract. Devin Lloyd, let's get some youth in there. Let's get some competition there.
I agree with you on not picking Dylan Sampson either. I don't think he's a fit in the system, but there you go.
Yeah. So it may end up being, I don't know, Hunter. It may end up being just one of the later round guys. Maybe be for a passing down back. So I guess we'll see who's available now that we're up to pick 194 in the 6th round, the Jaguars' 6th round pick. And who do we have? Well, we got Hunter. I just said Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn, and he's still available on the clock. That's where I'm going. I said it last round. I didn't think he would still be there.
But you got to take him now. Yeah, I feel like. And
I keep getting guys that it's just falling how I thought it would fall.
Yes. Tell the world again how lucky you've been.
I am. I know folks are going to hate this draft. They're going to hate me because I did not get a cornerback in the top. Well, I didn't get a cornerback at all so far.
I think you hate yourself. Don't.
I am a cornerback. I do hate the fact that I did not get a cornerback. Absolutely, but. Hey, man, the draft falls where it falls. So if we end up getting a stopgap cornerback to add to that DB room on the outside, then so be it. But I already have my last pick of the draft pre-selected. So it's none of these guys. It is Steve-O Klotz, the tight end out of Iowa State, who would normally be an undrafted free agent. But unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at this is a very light draft as far as fullbacks are concerned, and Klotz was named the 2nd team All Big 12 at fullback for 2 straight seasons.
I can tell you this: having scouted him some with UCF playing him by way of the black and gold banneret, I don't think he's an impressive receiver per se, but he was an excellent blocker, and when he gets left alone, he can make the catch. So I think if you got him UDFA, I'd be happier with it, but there's nothing wrong with him being Mr. Jaguar irrelevant, I think.
Yeah, 7th round draft pick. I'm not expecting you to make the roster all the time, but if you are a fullback, yeah, I would hope if you're one of the few fullbacks on the roster, which Jaguars really don't have one.
And now that move tight ends been reportedly been retained by the Niners, that dream is dead.
There you go. So based on that, yeah, I want a fullback on this roster. I want to make this run game dominant. And so I've done it with the O-line. I've done it at the fullback position. We'll see what happens. So we at pick number 5, we have Mason Graham out of Michigan. At pick 36 in the 2nd round, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, the offensive guard.
I hate you.
At pick 70, Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas. And at pick 88, Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State. And then, frankly, I am in love with those first 4 picks. I'm kind of in love with those first 5, but I'm definitely in love with those first 4. Rounding it out with Jordan Birch, edge out of Oregon, pick 107. Logan Brown at offensive tackle out of Kansas, 126. Jake Brigginston, the tight end out of Clemson, at 142. Jamon Dumas Johnson out of linebacker out of Kentucky at 182. Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn at 194, and Steve-O Klotz, tight end / fullback out of Iowa State, to round out in the 7th round at 221. Duval, tell me how I did, or flame me on the socials because I assume it's coming. But yes,
I assume it's coming too with your no cornerback picking self.
I wanted the cornerbacks, but I had a choice to make, bro. It was go big or go small, and unfortunately, I keep telling folks at my core belief, I do say the Jaguars need to have the most boringest, whatever you want to call it, draft of all drafts, because we need to get the foundations right. So if this ain't getting the foundations right,
if you want a boring draft, you look at mine. That one's boring as hell. No Jaden Higgins, no amazing murder picks, just need and BPA combining forces, though I do think the Benjamin Morrison pick, it was good. I think you're right. Getting him and Porter out of Iowa State. Again, my favorite pick on there probably is that, but I think of the two of us, you picking Jaden Higgins at 88 overall is the premier pick. Between
my wide receivers better than yours, basically, yeah.
But I can throw 3 guys at yours to cover him in my draft, baby. Come on, Mr. DD, you're jealous.
Hey, man, I'm a little bit, but we gonna see how the folks think, because this is gonna be interesting. I don't even know how to feel about this draft. Just looking at them back and forth, but you got 4 offensive linemen, and I added 2. I have a defensive lineman at an edge. A high defensive lineman and edge. We have no edge depth with yours, though. So we all have holes, and my biggest hole is cornerback. So I wonder how folks are going to accept it. But hey, man, Duval, y'all let me know. This is going to be interesting. Wasn't the greatest draft for me, but drafts are never going to go how you want them to go, and we're not even trading. So it is what it is. But let me know how you think. I want to know how they feel.
Travis may have the better draft, but I think I was the better GM because I faced more challenges and wasn't lucky out of my mind. So, make sure you consider that in your decision of which of the two of us reigns supreme. Look at you mocking me. For those in the pods, Travis D. Holmes giving me the fake cry motion because I'm pointing out facts.
It doesn't make you the better GM because I dealt with less. That just makes, hey, man, I'm just favored. I'm blessed and highly favored. I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Blessed and highly favored. You know who's blessed and highly favored? All of you out there in the Duval Devout for enjoying this episode of the Duval Dive, the mock draft edition. Maybe we'll do it again later if y'all like it. But Travis, tell the world.
Yeah, I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes, Blue Sky, Twitter, all these sites that, man, they don't matter. When the world is dead and gone, none of these sites won't matter. All that's going to matter is BigCatCountry.com, where we have you covered with all of the Jacksonville Jaguars free agent signings, all the Jaguars action. We have profiles about your favorite draft prospects in the draft. I believe we just did one on Tech McMillan that just came out yesterday. So definitely take a look at that. And yeah, BigCatCountry.com. Please like and subscribe us on the Duval Dive YouTube. Rate and review us wherever you catch your pods on the Duval Dive, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And for the most part, that's what I got, man. Where can you be found, sir?
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network, where I am currently covering the Orlando Magic as you listen to this, as well as writing things Jaguar. Please explore my article on what the positives of Trevor Lawrence getting last hurt was. Of course, we had the episode on that here on the Duval Dive as well. Make sure you check out all the above, as well as my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. I will be releasing action on how Pro Day went for the Big 12 for UCF players in particular. I know a lot of people might be looking at BJ Adams to try to improve his stock, Kobe Hudson, all that. RJ Harvey not participating for a good reason because he whooped that booty at the combine, probably what got him off the board 5th in that mock, right, Travis? Anyways, with all that being said, for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, until next time, everyone, class dismiss.